This story happened years ago to a woman who was driving on her way home. Everything seemed normal, not until her car was hit and she was almost ran off the road. She calmed down as she was still in shock at what happened. A few minutes later, a van stopped beside her car. The driver of the van asked her to rest inside the van together with his wife and kids while waiting for the accident to be settled. Initially, she just refused since it was more comfortable for her to stay inside her car. Fear arose in her as she looked inside the van and noticed that there was no one inside the van aside from the driver. Due to fear, she immediately hopped in the car and started to drive away, neglecting the accident that happened. This story happened to a night shift hotel staff working at an 18th century hotel in the English countryside. It was around midnight when a guest rushed down to the reception, claiming she couldn't sleep due to eerie laughter and a child standing at her bedside with a candle. Due to fear, the hotel staff immediately reported it to the manager. Fear arose in the staff the moment the manager revealed that the hotel was originally a school where many students died, and the paranormal activity usually happened to someone who's expected to die soon. This story happened 4 years ago to a mother who experienced a paranormal encounter at home. It was around midnight when the nanny cam monitor suddenly flickered and created an ear-piercing feedback sound. She immediately checked and saw her son standing motionless in the living room, staring blankly at the wall. The son's eyes went directly to the camera in the upper corner of the room, and his face had no expression at all. But when she personally checked the room, she saw her son sleeping tightly in the corner. Fear arose in her the moment she realized and felt that there was another person inside the room. This story happened to a young boy who was left alone during Easter Sunday. His family visited his grandparents while he stayed in his bed because he was sick. Everything seemed normal, not until he heard a scratching sound from outside his room. Initially, he disregarded it as it might just be a sound coming from outside the house. Fear arose in him the moment he heard a voice calling his name downstairs. Immediately messaged his parents and asked where they were, and was shocked when they said, "We're still in Grandma's house." Due to fear, he just stayed in his room, trying to direct his attention away from the voice while waiting for his parents to return. Have you ever heard about the booty jiggler nightmare meme? This story is about a teenager named Mike who thought the booty jiggler was just a funny meme. Initially, his roommate Tony had a weird dream about it, and it really terrified him. However, Mike just made fun of it. A few days later, Mike started to dream weirdly every night, until he dreamt about the booty jiggler's creepy meme. It was as if he was awake, yet he couldn't move his body, which caused him to panic, and yet he couldn't move. And until now, that said meme is still haunting people in their sleep. This story happened to a night shift call center employee in the Philippines. Her main role is to monitor the activities of employees, including their idle time. As she was checking the activity status of every employee, she noticed that one of the agents was idle for a very long time. Immediately, she notified her supervisor to check the employee. She started to get nervous the moment her supervisor told her that said employee was already dead. The employee died while on his way to work. And what's really creepy is that they noticed that the employee logged in exactly on the same day. This story happened years ago to a female teacher at a Catholic school in Batangas. Everything started normal, not until one of her students started to see paranormal things. Her student Rina kept on seeing marching people covered with blood. The student was so terrified that the teachers started to gather just to comfort her. Then suddenly, one of the oldest teachers told them this place used to be the place where Japanese tortured Filipinos they captured. Fear arose in them as they realized that what Rina saw was the souls of Filipinos marching towards their death. This story happened 15 years ago in the Philippines. It was around 1 a.m. as Chinchin and her aunt were still listening to a radio podcast. Everything seemed normal, not until the radio sound started to glitch. Initially, both of them thought that it was just a signal problem, and then suddenly the creepy voice of a woman came from out the radio. The woman was calling for help continuously, which caused Chinchin and her aunt to panic. The weird thing is that there was no voice coming from out their mouths, and both of them were too afraid to move. The creepy voice started to fade after a few minutes, and Chinchin and her aunt were left crying after, as they were terrified and helpless. This story happened years ago to a female call center agent in Quezon City, Philippines. It was around 3:45 a.m. when she rode the elevator alone. Everything seemed normal, not until the elevator stopped moving. Fear arose in her when she realized that the elevator stopped at a floor where there were no occupants. Due to fear, she just closed her eyes and waited until the elevator reached the ground floor. The next day, she told her team about what happened to her. They started to feel nervous, as they know that there was an announcement that the elevator would be off during that time for maintenance. And what really shocked them was that when they checked the CCTV footage, there was a man beside her who got off when the elevator reached the empty floor. This story happened 3 years ago to a female student in the Philippines. It was around midnight when the student rode a tricycle alone on her way home. Everything seemed normal, not until she noticed that the driver was taking a different route instead of the usual way. Due to fear, she immediately confronted the driver, but the driver didn't respond. She started to panic, but then she noticed that they were already in her home. Due to curiosity, she asked the driver why he wasn't responding. The driver responded, "There was another passenger beside you, wearing the same uniform but without a face." And starting from that day on, that student never rides a tricycle alone late at night again. This story happened years ago to a new doctor in a hospital. That doctor was so short-tempered that he easily got annoyed at small details. Everything seemed normal during his first few days in the hospital, not until he experienced a paranormal occurrence. It was midnight when he was walking alone going to his office. The lights started to flicker, which annoyed him, and he started to say curse words out of habit. Days after that, he noticed that there were many things missing in his office, and every time he got in the office, his table was a mess, as if someone had played with it. Due to that, he started to ask his colleagues if someone was messing with him. Fear arose in him when they said to him that it was Susie, the little ghost girl in the hospital. They also added that Susie hates curse words the most. They advised the doctor to say sorry while he was alone in the office. Upon trying that, everything went back to normal, as if Susie accepted the doctor's apology. This story happened 9 years ago to a female college student in the Philippines. It was around 10 p.m. when she was walking back to her dorm together with her male classmate. Everything seemed normal, and she even thought that her male friend might be confessing while they were on their way back to the dorm. However, that male friend didn't say anything until they reached her room. Fear arose in her as she noticed that his male friend seemed terrified. Due to curiosity, she asked him what was wrong, and then his male friend slowly replied, "I walked with you because I noticed that there's a dark humanoid-shaped figure walking beside you. It was the same height as you, but with a missing arm and head." The female student started to cry due to fear, and starting from that day on, she would never walk alone on that same way during nighttime.